Okay, so we are going to talk, as you see, about discoverability of books. I don't know if the presentation can be, yeah. So we are going to talk about discoverability of books, which is a nice topic, an interesting topic, different from selling. It's just discovering, but it's the previous to the purchase action, so it's very important. In a way, we are going to have José Manuel Antar. I think that doesn't need presentation. We all know him very well. And Sadek, that she is the co-founder, founder, and the chief product officer of Shimmr, a company that she will explain later very well what it is. Both of them will help us to understand this discovery thing. No? We have prepared this presentation that will help us to, while we talk, we will be passing this, projecting the slides for you to have some visual context. Discoverability is very important because, in fact, when we discover something, we all know that it will be probably the next thing that we can connect with. And if you connect with something, you are changing, you are being another individual. No? So discoverability means what you are going to be somehow next, and how can you grow as a person, no? As a reader. There are, well, I know that probably this is not well seen because the slide is a little bit, I'm not sure if you see that, but this study, it took us a lot of time to find serious studies about discoverability. There are not a lot of them published recently. This one is published by the Portland State University. It was published in 2021. And here we can see different ways of discovery. So, when we investigated about other studies of this, about discoverability, we saw that it's something very fragmented. There are so many ways. It's quite different than what we have been seeing of concentration in the sales channels. In the discoverability, there are many ways. And it's very interesting because this one, the three last ones, the ones that are more important here, are connected to something that Andrew mentioned in the previous session, that is word of mouth. People are saying that the way they prefer to discover and the way they discover is by talking with friends. That's the first thing. Then the second thing, they talk about favorite author. I mean, they don't discover something new. They knew the author and they buy the next book. And the third one, important, is from family. So talking with family. And all the others are there, but it's interesting, that fact, because this study is very coherent with another one that has been published this year, talking about Gen Z and millennials. They say they discover exactly with these two ways. The most important one, through the friends, talking with friends. The second one with the family. The third one is the family. In the middle is something new that it was not in the previous one. That is TV shows or series, or they discover a book because they have seen the movie before. So that's very interesting, this coherence, especially with the word of mouth. And here, another thing that we can see, and we will discuss during the conversation, is that, of course, it also depends on how you discover, depends on a lot of things, your cultural context, your preferences. But this is very interesting. This study was published by Penguin Random House in 2016. I have been trying to find another one, but I couldn't find anyone more recent. But it shows that as you grow older, you discover less in social networks and more in analogical print books. It's interesting, magazines or newspapers. So it shows that the age also influences how you discover. So with all of that, we have tried to build this map that will help us to conduct the conversation. This is a two-axis map. We have decided to divide all the options for discoverability in two axes: analogical, digital, generic, personalized. So analogical digital is very obvious. Analogical things that are physical, you discover in physical way, physical places. Digital, we all know, digital. And here, generic to personalized. Generic because you can have an analogical experience, very generic, or a very personalized one, and the same with digital. If you look at digital, the change from generic to personalized is connected to AI. So as AI improves in the market, in the algorithms, the machine learning algorithms are improving, it can happen that there's no generic discoverability in digital, that everything shifts to AI, so a very personalized, individualized experience of discovery. No? So all that is the context we want to discuss with you today. And I will just throw a first question for you, José Manuel. So based on, you have been working with all the value chain agents in the book industry, based on what you have known about booksellers, publishers, how do you see the way they approach all these, excuse me, how can I go back? Sorry. I think I'll show you all the presentation. How can I go back? Like that. Okay. I see. No problem. Here. How do you see they managing this coherence? Because it's very difficult to be having such a lot of ways, being coherent and allocating the resources appropriate to each budget for each thing. Have you detected some shifts, some trends in this?
Okay, yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this amazing meeting.
You're welcome. Your first
The ambience is very good, so thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
No, I mean, first of all, what's great, the division, the axis that you explained regarding discoverability, because it's not easy to treat with this concept in that sense. I have to say that a lot of things that we are talking now, Andrew, Michael, and Raul gave us, make a spoiler for us in that sense, but it's linked with the two presentations. So I think that you make the introduction very well in that sense. I mean, it's a change of places to discover things, including books. There is a physical place. In the case of books, is a library or a bookshop, or even a physical material as a magazine or a journal in order to read. And then how can we change our life with the screens in the last 10, 15, 20 years? Yeah. Screens means smartphones, computers, television. There are places where we interact with our friends, with the family, or with contents. So this is a challenge for the whole industry, for all the companies and for all the commerce. How can we treat it in the book sector? Well, you mentioned the collaboration between agents is clear regarding this transition in some way. Not forget this analogical part that you mentioned, that I think is very important, and is a difference that we have with other sectors, especially regarding the bookshop channel. That is the main area for discover books for so many years. So we can lose this link, but of course adapt to this evolution to the screen discoverability strategy. And for sure, the next step linked with this transition is the artificial intelligence evolution.
So, So by the way, Searsha, you can explain why your company, and you will explain later how your company works and what you do, but why did you decide to focus on helping books to be seen or discovered based on AI? What do you think that it brings differently from other options that we have seen? There are so many options there.
Well, I think, first of all, discoverability can be split in so many ways, as you showed on the axes. But largely, I always think of it in two ways. There's kind of organic discoverability, and then there's paid discoverability. Organic, you can't really influence. It's a byproduct of something doing well. It's the gain of momentum of something in culture. But then there's paid discoverability, and within that, there's lots of different options. So the way we approach it is basically being able to find a book for every reader. So making sure that each book finds its reader. Porter, who's just over there, actually classed it reverse discoverability, which is his phrase. But it's a great way to think about discoverability. It doesn't have to be passive. Organic discoverability is often passive, and paid is obviously much more active. And so what AI enables you to do is work out what the best way is to actually get that active discovery, to find your audience, but to be honest, to also find the right things to show your audience, because finding them isn't enough. You have to excite them once you've found them. So I think AI allows us to work out what's really going to work, and A/B test. I mean, most marketing teams that I've come across, and perhaps this is throwing a lot of shade at marketing teams, I don't know, but don't A/B test very much. You know, they might have one thing and another thing, and they put them both in, and then they stop one when one works. But really, what AI enables you to do is try 100 things. Try 100 things to 100 different people, see what works, and then really cleverly allocate budget and allocate support for the thing that is getting the most momentum. So it basically gives you a much greater likelihood of success in terms of the book finding its audience.
Okay, so that's why the axis of personalization is key, the AI. Okay, so let's go through the 3 areas. So the analogical discovery, that it's very important, as you explained, and is one of the things that is more sentimental for all of us that love books. No? We can discover books physically in so many ways, book clubs, in bookstores. Here you have some examples. But I would like that you explain, José Manuel, as some examples of things that you think that are relevant or specific strategies that booksellers or publishers can do to foster analogical discovery, only analogical.
That's right, yeah. Well, let's include some examples regarding different companies. For instance, in the site of the bookshops, I've included 2 references because there are many differences, but I include 2 differences that they are part of the READMAGINE community, Feltrinelli and Thalia, that are 2 very important bookshop chains from Italy in one case and from Germany for other. Feltrinelli with this model of hybrid bookshop, and Thalia with this omni-channel strategy, both in order to give response answering all the options that the customer, that the reader needs, and creating some experience in the physical place as is the bookshop. I mean, to attract people to visit the bookshop as a way to discover books or other entertainment and cultural products. I think, of course, this idea is applied to the indie bookshop for sure, and there are very good experience in that sense. Then, of course, there is a lot of feedback that bookshops bring to the publishers and to the whole industry. I include an example as Libranda, that is a Spanish initiative developed by the Spanish Association of Booksellers in order to give sell-out data to the whole industry, to the distributors, to the publishers, etc. Of course, there are sell-out data, not personal data but it's important to have this continued data from a specific area of the retail system, that is the indie bookshops. And of course, regarding an analogical, I think also is very important the B2B marketing, that probably is not very considered in general terms. It's an example of a company in Italy, Promedi, that is a specific company regarding the commercialization of books. I mean, in terms to give feedback to the publishers about what's happening in the different retail channels. I think this model is very interesting and is growing around Europe. And finally, for sure, is considering in the last panel was metadata is a key factor not only for the distribution and for the commercialization of print books and the discoverability, but on digital. Without metadata, you can build this strategy.
Yeah.
This is the example of Dilbe, that is the metadata base here in Spain, managed by the Publishers Association.
Yeah, and it's true that we cannot isolate the ways we discover, because we talk about, in this exercise, we have tried to be very mathematical, separating analogical from digital, but in fact, this is not the way it happens, no? Everything is merged. So in the study I showed you before, the Portland study, the Portland University, readers said that 44% of readers said that they bought a book that they bought a book in a bookstore that they discovered previously on the internet, and 35% said that they bought a book in a bookstore that they discovered in their libraries, physical libraries. So this cross influence, I think, how do you see that? Do you think it's something that we have to foster? Sometimes we are not aware. Sometimes you talk to booksellers or you talk to librarians, and no one is really aware of the influence one has over the other, no?
Sure, there is. I mean, Luis González always talk about not work as silos, but work as a connection between the different areas. So in that sense, this is one example of so. For instance, here in READMAGINE during the last years, we have this idea of collaboration between the library sector and the publishing sector. There is pros and options to collaborate. Amazing experience at Cyber Libris that nowadays is part of the DeMarque group that create an amazing tool, an amazing system in order to have some feedback from the library system in order to adapt the publisher's policy on terms of, so there is there is an area that is not too much explored, and I think that it is very important opportunities regarding broke these silos and connections.
And it can be hard to measure that halo effect, can't it? Like if you really are driving success in one channel, it will inevitably spill into other channels, but it's very hard to measure. So you kind of have to use your instincts a little bit to build momentum in the channel that's going to have the most impact in the other channels as well.
Which measuring that
is... You've got to be
brave. You have to have a lot of experience, testing. You have to, it's not easy to measure the impact in all the multi-channel options for discovery. So going to digital before jumping to AI, again, here we have a lot of options. Of course, social networks, TikTok, Instagram is probably one of the most important ones, but we also mentioned searchers like Amazon is one, Google, YouTube. A lot of people discovering things in YouTube too. So we have such a amount of things, and we have talked about, Searsha mentioned that there can be two things. It can be organic discovery or paid. No? So based on the things that you have been seeing in different retailers and publishers, what do you think could be a good example to show us, to explain us, regarding paid or organic digital discovery in our markets?
Well, okay, I think that in considering the role of the small and medium-sized publishers, that probably they have to different areas to work, and normally it's a one-man, one-woman company. Yeah. So, in my opinion, they need to select the right partners to each kind of service that can be treated by the company. So, for instance, in the question of discoverability, there are several startups, companies that are growing at international level with different models of business. Open Root Media in the US, or Tandem Collective starting in the UK, but now based in Italy. In Spain, there will be a workshop in this afternoon, or Jelly Books for our friend Andrew, and Bit Technology for our friend Nathan, all linked with publishers, linked with retail, also with the bookshops, in order to help the full ecosystem to go ahead, especially small and medium-sized companies that, for sure, the big players have his own departments that can develop this kind of things. From the perspective of the bookshops, that I think is very important, I think it's amazing the work developed at Amazon. The last round table was clear, the power, but there is a balance that we as sector has to maintain between these big platforms, especially Amazon, and the bookshop ecosystem. So here in Spain, again, Todos Tus Libros, All Your Books, that is an e-commerce platform developed by the Spanish Publishers Association. I think it's a very good example of how can be the future on this collaboration of the bookshops. And of course, Bookshop from US and now by sitting UK. And the next round table, we will have more feedback on it. I don't make a spoiler on that, but I think it's also very, very interesting evolution of the bookshop sector. And then I know and Andrew told about that in the presentation. I think that there is an area that could be polemic in some way, that is the direct relation between the publisher and the customer, the reader. Yeah. Not in order to make a big business, but in order to have a feedback of data, create audience, because there is a kind of black box in the middle of this chain. So questions of direct sales by the publisher website or CRM. I talked with some small publishers here in Spain. They don't know what's a CRM, the customer relation management. They need small system of this kind that can be used as a first step in order to grow in that sense.
Yeah, that's important, yeah. And that's something we are seeing, that this ambition of having your own reader community as a publisher maybe not to sell, as you said, but to have a community of people explaining you how they read, and it's very connected to what we will see about AI now. No? So if we jump to AI, because this is probably the most personalized way to do discoverability, here we have done a little summary of one thing. It's this slide is very focused on the search engines, in the sense of discoverability or recommendation engines, I would say, because it's the most popular thing. We know AI. Today, everything that we do with all the platforms, music, movies, everything, all these recommendation engines are using AI technologies. The ones that are more classical are these analytical AI recommendation engines. There are a lot of algorithms. I have written there some of them that, without us realizing, they are recommending or showing us what they think, they predict we would like to see next or to read next, based on a lot of things, our behavior, the type of readers we are compared to other cluster of readers. There are so many algorithms that can control our expectations. And then we have the interactive and generative AI, which is a step beyond, because this is even more attractive in the sense that with the analytical AI, normally you receive impacts of books that you are suggested to read, but with the interactive and generative, you can talk to the recommendation system, you can chat with the recommendation system using natural language, and this is like if you were talking to someone. Of course, there's no one behind, it's a machine, but you can feel there's someone. And this is something very important. A lot of chatbots, I have seen very nice implementations of this in libraries, for instance, very attractive ones. And then we have the generative AI. This is something we are living for sure in all your platforms that you use, where we go one step beyond. That is that you see the metadata you have to see, you see the covers of the books that you have to see, the covers change based on your profile. Based on how you read, they will show you a synopsis, or they emphasize something in the synopsis that won't emphasize maybe if I see the book, because they think that I will not be interested in that. So this personalization is so high. It's so high that is probably what is going to conduct or the next level of recommendations. No? In the case of Shimmr, you use both technologies. You use analytical, you use generative AI. But for other, you don't do recommendation engines. You do something different, but it's based in these technologies too. So I would like to give you that for you to show us how you use these technologies to make the discoverability of the books a reality.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think you have.
Oh, am I going the wrong way?
Yeah.
I see why you had a problem.
Yeah,
that's confusing. OK, so I'll explain a little bit about what Shimmr does and then how we approach discoverability. I think what I always find is useful is also to help you guys think about discoverability and how you could use AI yourselves to actually achieve some of these things. So I'll have some top tips on how to use large language models and generative models to come up with your own ways of helping your books. But in a nutshell, what Shimmr does is makes ads to sell books. It's pretty simple. It's all completely automated, and it works basically by using these three machines. So what a publisher or an author does is they give us a book, and that's the only thing they have to do. From then on, in our system, there are basically three machines. The first one is called the analyzer, and that's what reads the book. It understands what are the psychological themes within the book. Is this a David versus Goliath story? Is this an anti-establishment story? What are the big themes? Then if it's fiction, it's who are the characters? Where is it set? Is it in a kitchen? Is it on Mars? Is it in the sea? Who knows? It'll pull out all of those kind of things, all of the details needed to market a book. And if it's non-fiction, it will talk more about the skills and the benefits and what you can learn, and also the feelings that you have. It's all very emotional. It's an amazing feeling when you knit your first jumper. I've actually never knitted a jumper. I did knit a scarf. But anyway. So there's a lot of emotion that comes with non-fiction as well that is captured by the analyzer. And that is the output of that is called the book DNA. It's basically a fingerprint of the book. That then moves into the second machine, which is called the generator. And this is what says, OK, I understand what the book's about. I kind of get it. let me make you some images, let me make you some headlines. And so it will create basically a marketing campaign. And within that, it's going to try lots of different things. It's going to say, what's the most romantic moment? What's the most exciting moment? What's the most adventurous moment? It's going to pull out different ways of marketing the book so that it can learn really quickly what works and double down on that. And then the things that don't work, it will just let fly away. That then gets pushed into the final machine, which is called the deployer, which says, OK, I get what the book's about. I see what you've made. Who's going to love it? Who is this for? And it will basically match the book with audiences that are the most likely to convert, so the most likely to click, the most likely to purchase. And it will push those ads out to those people through Google and through Meta, through Instagram and Facebook. And when they click on it, they will land on an e-commerce page where they can buy the book. So it's hands-free advertising. It's optimizing all year round. It's learning, learning, learning on every day. So underneath all of that, there's obviously a few types of AI working. Underneath the analyzer, there's a large language model, and underneath the generator, there's a diffusion model, and underneath the deployer, there's other types of AI, actually, and just clever technology stuff that goes on. Happy to talk to anyone about the details. I won't bore you all with them. And the output in terms of imagery is stuff like this. So you can see this is a cookbook at the top, a self-help book, a story about an adorable little troll that gets lost in the forest, a children's book about AI. You know, there's all sorts of different images here that come out for different books because it's bespoke to the book. The machine builds it only from what it finds in the book. In terms of discoverability, I think there are two key challenges that AI can help with that Shimmr also tackles, which is why I feel like I can talk about them. The first is, in a world where there's endless people on Meta, on Pinterest, on Amazon, on Facebook, on Google, everywhere, how can you find the people that are most likely to enjoy and buy the book? And the second thing is, once you've found them, in a world where AI can create anything at the drop of a hat, what is it that you should actually show them that will excite them into purchasing? So it's audiences and ads are kind of the two parts that I see to discoverability. So on the first part, finding your niche, how do you find those people? So here's some tips and tricks for how to find new audiences for your books. So this is using Claude or ChatGPT. My favorite one is Claude. If you want to be extra safe, make sure that you've bought the professional side, because nothing in this world is for free. If you're not paying, they're using your data to train. So pay for it. So in terms of using the large language model, you can feed in little bits of your book, you know, maybe a description you can write, whatever you feel comfortable sharing, and ask it, who are the audiences that are actually going to enjoy this book, and where do they spend time? Because you need to be able to prioritize your channel strategy. So where is it that I should be really prioritizing? If this is a non-fiction book about, you know, how to do well in your career, probably LinkedIn is a really good place for you to be. And you can ask it to actually rank those channels. So say, take the top 10 platforms that are successful in your country and say, rank these in order of where my audiences are most likely to be. And it will give that to you, and that will really help you to understand where to use your energy and your budget. And then the other thing is to think outside of your genre. You know, your book might be historical romance fiction. Great. But it might also be set in Sweden. It might be, you know, to do with, I don't know, ladybugs. And so anyone who's like really passionate about ladybugs or Sweden might also be really interested in your book. So think about different ways of cutting the interest within your book, because that is the level that you can get to with social media targeting. And again, you can ask, if you feed it in sections of your book or summaries of your book, you can get it to help you pull out that. And also, don't just give up at the first prompt. You can keep going. You can iterate. So you can say, hey, I didn't like what you just said. It wasn't quite right. I wanted you to be more specific. Do that again, but more specifically, and it will come back and do it more specifically. So I'm going to use this example. This is a teenage book about a young boy who moves to Dublin and goes on a Viking adventure into a new world after he's moved there. So it's kind of a children's fantasy. And we gave it to our machine, and this is some of the stuff that it came out with. We come out with a lot, so I just summarized it here. And you can see that it's saying young people between 10 and 14. That's very understandable. But the other thing it said was children who are going through change in their lives, because this is fundamentally about a child that has gone through a massive move and a massive shift. So any children that are going through change, this book would really appeal to. Obviously, you target the parents, and there's lots of different ways of doing that. But then it's also about Norse mythology. It's about, you know, adventure and hospitals and all that kind of thing. So there's lots and lots of different ways into this book that the machine identified. Then the next thing that our machine does is it looks at the marketing copy, and again, using those large language models, you can feed it in the summary of your book and say, give me 10 marketing hooks. Give me 10 ways that I could make this book sound exciting to people. And you can then test those. You can A/B test those on social media, and that will really help you to understand what will hook people and get them interested once you've found the right people. And then the other thing is just make sure that you're explaining it like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old, what you want it to do. Because the large language models are the smartest 5-year-olds you'll ever meet. So you just got to be keep them on track and be clear with them. I'm just leaving. I won't go through all of these, but you can snap them if you like. So this is examples of what our machine came out with for this book. You can see that there's the short, snappy ones like Dublin Lad versus Norse God, and then there's the much longer ones like Feel the Thrill of Adventure and the Chill of Ancient Norse Mythology. So our machine will basically go through all of these and try and work out what is the winning combination, what's the winning line, so that it can back that. And that's the kind of thing that AI can enable you to try out. And then finally, what are you actually showing them? So my background's in advertising, and I could list for you, I actually couldn't list for you, there's way too many, the studies which say the way to get a response from people is to elicit an emotion. Make them feel something, and they will do the behavior that you're asking for. And so the amazing thing about books is that they are packed full of emotion. They are some of the richest emotional assets that we have. Even a manual on how to fix your car is emotional because you want to fix your car, and once you've done it, you're going to feel really good. So everything is emotional. So with one book cover, which is how the market is at the moment, you simply can't get that range of emotion across to people. You can't excite people enough. And so what we basically do in Shimmr, and what I think AI is great at, is pulling out that emotion and excitement from the book and showing it to people. You're teasing them, you're getting them excited. And that's really what then generates the response. This one is very funny because this is right at the beginning. This is Peter Rabbit. Does everyone know Peter Rabbit?
Yes.
So, this was last year. I just gave it a prompt. I didn't deal with it very much, and it was utterly terrifying. It's not something you can show children. No. It's not something that will work in marketing. And then on the left-hand side is where we got to. A couple of months ago, we tweaked our machine, we built these prompts, we worked so long to get the right stuff out of the machine, and this is now the kind of thing that you can expect every single time once you've put in that effort to hone the diffusion model properly. So a few tips on using generative AI yourself to get the kind of right images out. It's really tempting to give it the narrative arc of your book and say, hey, this is an adventure story, and this is the bit where the mother confronts the father, or whatever. Don't do that, because it just doesn't understand. You're giving it too much information. Imagine that you're taking a picture of the scene that you want to describe, and then use that picture only describe the things that are going on in the picture. And the things that you want to have the greatest precedence, to be central, put them first in the prompt. So start from the most important, and then work the way through to the end, which is the least important stuff. And do a range of scenes. Try stuff out on your audiences. Try a load of different things and see what really works. Because it'll take a few minutes to make each image. It's worth the effort. If anyone has any questions about the rest of this stuff on this slide, do come and chat. And so this is the kind of imagery that came out from our machine. So you can see it's gone for the Norse Viking thing, it's gone for the other world, it's gone for the kind of father-son relationship, and it's gone for a kind of exciting, more scary adventure type asset. So that's how Shimmr works. That's how we get discoverability. Half is finding the people, the other half is getting them excited. And so our machine is primed to do that.
Yeah, and based on your experience, what is the reaction? I mean, when with your clients, with publishers, what is the main fears with this kind of methodologies? Is there any fear they manifest in terms of intellectual property things, or the fear of delegating creativity or creation in generative AI? Is there any fear that you have identified? How you overpass that? How you overcome that?
Every single customer asks the same thing at the beginning, which I actually think is great, because it's a sign of everyone being more literate in AI. But they say, is my book safe? Is my book going to be used to train the model? Mm-hmm. And our answer is emphatically no. It was the first thing we worked on. The books are safe. They are with us. They are not used for any training. And